Hi there. So what we're doing now is the first step in your exam grade. So if you're working ahead, um, you have time to do this well. So do not rush this step. Okay. This is worth 10 points of your exam grade. So let's take this seriously. Mark revisions on intro, body, and conclusion. So all of those things put together make your rough draft. And then for your final draft, you will be typing intro right into body, right into conclusion. So you did that in 4 assignments. But now you're going to, when you do your final draft, you will do it all together plus your bibliography. So we'll get to the bibliography after the revisions. Okay, so show the change. When I say show the change, I think that by now you guys know what I'm talking about. I need to see, and for me, the best thing is to see where you scratch something out, you put a number 2, and you did something where you put like a paragraph symbol and put number 2 because you need to put a paragraph break there. Be very, very clear about it. If you're not clear about it, I won't count it correctly, or I won't see it maybe. Okay, so make sure I can see what you do. For full credit, mark at least 10 changes that correspond to at least 5 of these 7 items. Remember, you need to change more than that because, okay, let's say you did 1 for each plus 3 more conventions things. There are probably more than 4 convention errors that you will need to mark. Just saying. So let's go through these items. Number 1, ideas. Will this be at least 5 pages long? There's a couple of people that I'm a little concerned about, especially those that hand wrote their rough draft, which is okay. Handwriting your rough draft is fine, but you just need to think about the fact that I don't remember exactly how many lines there are on a regular page, 8 by 10 page, 8 by 10, 8, whatever it is, 8.5 by 11 page. But I know that it's an average, I would say an average of 15 to 18 lines, not words per line. So if you're looking at your handwritten page and you have like say 7 or 8 words on a line, then that's going to be maybe half of a line of typewritten script. Do you understand? So you need to take those things into consideration. You may need to add more to your paper. I think I've communicated that to those people I was concerned about. Let's see. Because remember, it's going to be double spaced, not triple spaced, but double spaced, and 12-point normal type like Times New Roman or Calibri or Arial. Just FYI, I think of those 3, Arial is the biggest 12-point type. Let's see. Will it cover at least everything on your outline? Remember that your outline is your map or your plan for how to write your paper. And I believe that all of you have covered everything on your outline. But if not, then you may need to add a paragraph of background or add a paragraph that is responding to an objection to what you would say. That kind of thing. Some people might need to put a paragraph break in the middle of their background because your background might be quite long. And so that would come under number 2, organization. It says at least 1 paragraph per outline section. Do you need another break? So if you have a paragraph that's say, that's like an entire page typewritten, that's too long of a paragraph. Where can you break that paragraph? Just consider that. Where is a natural place to break it? Do you have transition words or phrases to guide your reader? So blah, blah, blah. On the other hand, stuff like that will help with the organization and readability of your paper. That will go under number 2 as well. If you look through there and you have enough paragraphs, and you have transition phrases, then just mark one of your transition phrases with a number 2. That would be fine. Number 3, voices. Is this paper your own best formal writing? So you should use formal language, not colloquial language, and I believe everybody is up with that. And your own. So if I run your paper through a plagiarism detector online and I find that it's like 40, 50, 60, 70, 80% plagiarized, there's a problem, okay? So we need to be very, very careful about this. Remember that if I find that your paper is plagiarized, you will get a 0 on the final draft, okay? That's no exceptions. You'll get a 0 on the final draft, and you will have to go back and rework it. And if you still have plagiarism in your paper, then you will still get a 0, okay? So please, please be careful about that. This kind of thing it becomes a serious issue later on in life. There have been some people, some well-known political figures in the United States that have been convicted of plagiarism and had multi-thousand-dollar fines for plagiarizing speeches and opinions and things like that. So this right now we're practicing making sure that our words are our own. I gave you a method to do that when I was going over your packet. There's more details in your packet about that. So paraphrase, also under voice, I want you to, this is going to have a count on your final draft, so make sure you look at this. I want you to eliminate all quotations except 2 or 3. So the only things that you should quote, exactly word for word, with quotation marks and attributions and everything, the only things that you should quote are words from experts in the field that you're talking about, or somebody that's very well known. Or if it's said in an exceedingly well-worded way, and you can't think of any other way to word what the person said. Those are the only things that you should make a quotation. So in your 5 to 6 page paper, I think that there should be a maximum of 3 direct quotations. If you think you need more than that, let me know. Okay, so that's that. Number 4, word choice. Do you use action verbs? Maybe you could reword a sentence so that it's not using a linking verb, but rather an action verb. Do you avoid no-nos? Some people are still using the word you, your, yourself, things like that. We are not using that unless maybe it's included in a direct quotation. You do not address your reader directly, and you do not use the word you as an indefinite pronoun. And then numerals less than 13. In almost every case, a numeral that's less than 13 should be written in letters. F-O-U-R, S-E-V-E-N, okay? If it's part of a title, and you have to use the title in your parenthetical documentation, like 11 reasons for blah, 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 and it starts with actual 11, then go ahead and use that because that is the actual name of the article. But in the text of your writing, avoid numerals under 13. Also, avoid deadwood. We talked about that in other years. We didn't talk about that so much this year, but you know what that means. It's words that don't add anything. So the way to make your paper longer is to add details and examples, not to add words that don't say anything. And you should know that by now. Use correct English. So, for example, know your prepositions, in, on, and at, of, and from, okay? Know which prepositions to use. We've talked a lot about usage over the years that you've had me for your English teacher. So just be careful about those things. Those follow under word choice. If you go in and make a change based on the correct English usage, then you can mark a number 4. Or if you change what you say from second person with the word you to third person, which is preferable, then you can mark 4 for word choice. Number 5, sentence fluency. Correct run-ons and rambling sentences. Okay, so go through there. Make sure that you have periods everywhere there need to be periods to make your sentences grammatically whole sentences and not parts of sentences. Make sure your verbs have subjects, okay? And make sure you're not stringing together things without putting a period in there. Also, you can have a grammatically correct compound complex sentence that could be like 7, 8, 9 lines long. That's too long. Okay, we are not going to be doing rambling sentences, so that will need to be broken up if you see something like that in your own writing. That's natural, though. You know, that's kind of the way that we talk a lot of times. But we're not talking, we're writing. So we're correcting that. Use both long and short sentences. Your writing will be more interesting, easier to read, and appealing to your teacher if you use some sentences that are longer, 4 or 5 lines long maybe, and other sentences that are shorter, 4 or 5 words long maybe. Okay. Number 6, conventions. That's the most common one, and many times when I tell students to do revisions, they ignore everything I said and they only correct conventions, and that's a good way to get, you know, a very low grade on your revisions. But you do need to correct any convention errors that you see, and you might be marking 4 or 5 correction errors with the number 6, convention errors. It could be correct spelling, grammar, punctuation, simple things. Does there need to be a comma here? Does there not need to be a comma here? Is this spelled wrong? Did you forget to put the second person, or not the second person, don't use that. Did you forget to put the S on the end of your verb if it's in third person singular? Stuff like that. Number 7, documentation. Use parenthetical citations corresponding to your resources. So if you have a resource that has a known author, what goes in parentheses next to what you used is the last name of the author. Okay? So if you quoted an article by John Smith, then Smith goes in the article. If you quoted an article, or if you paraphrased from another article, and you can't find an author, there was no listed author, then what you should use in most cases is the first 2 or 3 words of the title. So like I said before, there was one I remember reading, it was 11 reasons for something, and you could just put, quote, 11 reasons, end quote, and that could be what you put in your parentheses. There are some cases where you could put the name of the website. So like if you quoted, if not quoted, I keep saying quoted, but I don't want you to make a lot of quotes. If you used something from, for example, nasa.gov, and there's no author and it has a big long title, then I would put NASA in parentheses unless 2 or more of your resources are actually from NASA. Then you want to be clear. I hope I'm being clear. Let me know if I'm not. Okay. Where am I? Each body paragraph should have 2 to 3 citations. So you should not have a bunch of cited things strung together with no thoughts of your own between. Okay? This should be your paper, and you should use the things from your resources as support for your ideas. This is not a jigsaw puzzle. Okay? So each paragraph should have 2 to 3 citations. You should use something from each of at least 4 sources. So you might have done 4 research pages, but as you're writing, you find that you've only inserted things from notes from one source. Then that's a problem. Then that's something you could change. You could insert something from another source. You could switch something out. Sometimes you will find the same fact in 2 or more sources. So you could make sure you use it from a source that you weren't able to find anything else from. Does that make sense? If you run into problems in any of these areas, let me know. If you have worked ahead and you're doing this revisions before Mother's Day, I would take my time on it and ask questions if you have questions, because again, this is worth 10 points of your exam grade. What that means is if you flop on this, if you don't follow directions and you only get 2 points from this, then you have already gotten a failing grade on your exam. Okay? And that's that important. So please pay attention to this stuff. Take your time if you are working ahead. Ask questions if you have them, and happy working.